Hi guys, so in this video I'm talking about the white approval or white validation and why do we still have that? I get that if you're raised in society for so many years that just portrays one way of being as the ideal way of being, that those things are going to like sip into your being, into your DNA, into what you see as good, into what you see as important and valuable. You're gonna be like covered in it, and you're gonna have to when you start questioning or when you start wondering, are these all things that I've gotten from myself or from an oppressive society? You have to brush and brush. It's like tedious work to get rid of all these traces of an oppressive mindset, right? But like sometimes I wonder, for example, why is it that every time in Africa we get someone who's a genius, like the boy who built his own windmill by just reading books? This is genius, you know. Or people that do well in math, or people that are great in engineers or chess players or whatever. Like there's this thing of like, oh, they're so good. Now they must go to Europe. Do you understand? Now they must go to America. Now they must go and be with those people and then go to their school, you know, go to elite European schools. Why can't brilliant people be praised by Africans and stay in Africa and create things in Africa? Why do we always, whenever something is great, it's only as great as, okay, the Western world also recognize that this person is great. Like how the people who become world known, like whose novels are great, they still have to have a Western stamp of approval, you know, that they went to Yale or they went to Oxford, Cambridge, you know, and it makes me so ugh, why do we always have to be infiltrated through whiteness in order for us to be really good, you know? I feel like it's always like no matter how good we are, it's not as good unless we've had the white stamp of approval. And I'm just here to say that I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. This is maybe just a rant. But like I feel like we should value our stuff, we should value our art, we should value our fashion, we should value our design before it's in Vogue magazines, you know, before we say, oh, Vogue recognizes it, now it's really good. Okay, so I had to restart the camera, but which is probably good because I was going off and off in my. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that because oh they're doing our dances, or oh they're reading our books, or oh they care about how we grow food, or who cares. I just feel like oh my god. And like some people are like, oh, it's good that they show appreciation. It's also like in the natural hair movement that our hair should be accepted by society, especially if you live like in a primary white society. They should be accepted and embraced, and there should be space for our hair in that society. And I'm just feeling like, why isn't it just enough that we like it? And I feel like it's almost like compensating for for our own lack of appreciation of ourselves. Do you understand? So we need other people to appreciate it as well, especially people who we think are better than us, because then we feel like, okay, now it's important because they recognize it, you know? It's just so sad. And I don't want to carry that on. And I feel like, of course, it's good that people appreciate and they care about our stuff, but that shouldn't be the reason we adore and appreciate what we have, our hair, our skin. We shouldn't appreciate it because Italian Vogue decided to have a range of black beauty to celebrate it. That shouldn't be, okay, now I love it because they love it too. Who cares? I mean, that's great, but whatever. We love it already, you know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if it's coming off correctly, but I hope you get it. Um, but yeah, just that it has to go beyond that, and that we can love ourselves first and we can accept ourselves first. And that is the most important thing. And another thing I was thinking about, of course, in relation to this is that I don't believe that one race's superiority should be replaced with another race's superiority. But what I'm trying to say is that it's actually in the best interest of everybody to care about who they are and to love who they are first. I feel like if all races have self love first and self respect, and don't I'm not like trying to like start some what you call respectability politics, but like if we love ourselves enough, we won't really crave and demand it from other people as much in their recognition. We'll be like, oh, great, you love me too. It's kind of like personal to person race. It's not that complicated, actually. It's like person to person. If I love who I am and I appreciate who I am and I appreciate all my expressions of self, my hair, whatever, everything, and somebody says, oh, you look pretty, be like, oh, thank you. And I'll move on with my day. But I will not be there, oh, I hope you think I'm pretty. And I only think I'm pretty because you think I'm pretty. Or maybe you think I'm smart and I only feel I'm smart if you think I'm smart, or that I'm creative if you think I'm creative. Do you understand? So it's the same on a race base, that we should appreciate ourselves and love ourselves regardless of what other people, other races think of us. We should put ourselves first before other people put us first or include us or exclude us, whatever. Um, and we should focus our energy on us. Do you understand? On making our world a better place, making our countries better, our communities better, before trying to get other people to feel the same way about us.
Chapter 7, The Negro in Recognition. A, the Negro in Adler. From whatever direction one approaches the analysis of abnormal psychogenetic conditions, one very soon finds oneself in the presence of the following phenomena. The whole picture of the neurosis, as well as all its symptoms, emerges as under the influence of some final goal, indeed as projections of this goal. Therefore, one can ascribe the character of a formative cause to this final goal, the quality of a principle of orientation, of arrangement, of coordination. Try to understand the meaning and the direction of unhealthy manifestations, and you will immediately come face to face with a chaotic throng of tendencies, of impulses, of weaknesses, of anomalies, bound to discourage some and to arouse in others the rash reserve to penetrate the shadows at all costs, even at the risk of finding in the end that nothing has been gained, or that what has been gained is illusory. If, on the other hand, one accepts the hypothesis of a final goal, or of a casual finality, one sees the shadows dissolve at once, and we can read the soul of the patient like the pages of a book. It is on the basis of similar theoretical positions that, in general, the most stupendous frauds of our period are constructed. Let us apply Adler's individual psychology to the Antillians. The Negro is comparison. There is the first truth. He is comparison. That is, he is constantly preoccupied with self-evaluation and with the ego ideal. Whenever he comes into contact with someone else, the question of value of merit arises. The Antillians have no inherent values of their own. They are always contingent on the presence of the other. The question is always whether he is less intelligent than I, blacker than I, less respectable than I. Every position of one's own, every effort at security is based on relations of dependence with the diminution of the other. It is the wreckage of what surrounds me that provides the foundation for my virility. I should like to suggest an experiment to any Martinian, to any Martinician who reads this book. Find the most comparative street in Fort-de-France. Rue Schlosser, Rue Victor Hugo, certainly not Rue Francois Arago. The Martinician who agrees to make this experiment will share my opinion precisely insofar as he can objectively endure seeing himself stripped naked. An Antillian who meets an acquaintance for the first time after 5 or 6 years' absence greets him with aggression. This is because in the past, each had a fixed position. Now the inferior thinks that he has acquired worth, and the superior is determined to conserve the old hierarchy. You haven't changed a bit, still stupid as ever. I have known some physicians and dentists who have gone on filling their heads with mistakes and judgment made 15 years before. It is not so much concoctual errors as creolisms with which the dangerous man is bellaborded. He will put in his place once and for all, nothing to be done about it. The Antillian is characterized by his desire to dominate the other. His line of orientation runs through the other. It is always a question of subject. One never ever thinks of the object. I try to read admiration in the eyes of the other, and if unluckily those eyes show me an unpleasant reflection, I find that mirror flawed. Unquestionably, that other one is a fool. I do not try to be naked in the sight of the object. The object is denied in terms of individuality and liberty. The object is an instrument. It should enable me to realize my subjective security. I consider myself fulfilled, the wish for plentitude, and I recognize no division. The other comes to the stage only in order to furnish it. I am the hero, applauded or condemned. It makes no difference to me. I am the center of attention. If the other seeks to make me uneasy with his wish to have value, his fiction, I simply banish him without a trial. He ceases to exist. I do not want to hear about that fellow. I do not wish to experience the impact of the object. Contact with the object means conflict. I am a narcissist. And what I want to see in the eyes of others is a reflection that pleases me. Therefore, in any given group or environment in Martinique, one finds the man on top, the court that surrounds him, the in-betweens who are waiting for something better, and the losers. These, these last are slaughtered without mercy. One can imagine the temperature that prevails in that jungle. There's no way out of it. Me, nothing but me. The Martinicians are greedy for security. They want to compel the acceptance of their fiction. They want to be recognized in their quest for manhood. They want to make an appearance. Each one of them is an isolated, sterile, salient atom with sharply defined rites of passage. Each one of them is. Each one of them wants to be, to emerge. Everything that the Antillian does is done for the other. Not because the other is the ultimate objective of his action in the sense of communication between people that Adler describes, but more primitively because it is the other who corroborates him in his search for self-validation. Now that we have marked out the Adlerian line of orientation of the Antillian, our task is to look for its source. Here the difficulties begin. In effect, Adler has created a psychology of the individual. We have just seen that the feeling of inferiority is an Antillian characteristic. It is not just this for that Antillian who embodies the neurotic formation, but all Antillians. Antillian society is a neurotic society, a society of comparison, like the young lady was talking about. Hence, we are driven from the individual back to the social structure. If there is a taint, it lies not in the soul of the individual, but rather in that of the environment. The Martinician is and is not a neurotic. If we were strict in applying the conclusions of the Adlerian school, we should say that the Negro is seeking to protest against the inferiority that he feels historically. Since in all periods, the Negro has been an inferior, he attempts to react with a superiority complex. And this is indeed what comes out of the Brockfield's book, discussing the feeling of racial inferiority. Brockfield quotes a Spanish play by Andre de Calamunte, El Valiente Negro de Flanderes. This play makes clear that the inferiority of the Negro does not date from this century, since de Claramonte was the contemporary of Lope de Vega. Only the color of his skin there are lacked, that he should be a man of gentle blood. What a disgrace it is to be black in this world. Are black men not men? Does that endow them with a bastard soul, a duller, a uglier? And for that, they have earned some scornful names. I rise burdened with the shame of my color, and I let the world know my courage. It is so vile to be black. Poor one cannot sure any longer what saint to invoke. Normally, the black man is a slave. There is nothing of that sort in his attitude. For though I be black, I am not a slave. Nevertheless, we would like to be able to flee that blackness. He is in ethical position in the world. Viewed from an axiological standpoint, he is a white man. I am more white than snow. For after all, on the symbolic level, what is it really then to be black? Is it being that color? For that outrage will denounce fate, my time's heaven, and all those who have made me black. Oh, course of color. In his isolation, one sees that the wish cannot save him. His appearance saps and validates all his actions. What do souls matter? I am mad. What can I do but despair? Oh heaven, what a dread thing being black. At the climax of his anguish, there remains only one solution for the miserable Negro. Furnish proofs of his whiteness to others and above all to himself. If I cannot change my color, I won't luck. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward, continuing my reading of Fanon's book, Black Skin, White Mask. And this is chapter 7, The Negro in Recognition. And shout out to the young lady for the video that I used in the beginning of the video. That comes from the Abantu May, Abantu, Abantu May YouTube channel. The name of the video is On White Acceptance and Validation. That's right on time for what we're talking about today, because that's what Fanon is getting to, the Negro in recognition. The Negro wanting to be recognized by the dominant white society because the Negro understands where the power lies, and the Negro understands who put him in this place. And the Negro is already, and the Negro in the position that Fanon is talking about is already looking at the world through the eyes of whiteness. And so everything that's good is white and everything that's bad is black. And in order for the Negro to really truly be recognized and really truly be validated and really truly become someone in this society, that Negro has to be stamped by white people. That Negro has to be validated, recognized, uplifted by white people. White people have to see that Negro. And if white people don't see that Negro, then that Negro doesn't feel like they made it. You can't have made it if only black people see you. If only your own people see you for who you are, if only your own people recognize you, and in their minds, the white people have the power. So the white people have the power. But my blackness is probably holding me back from that white recognition, that white validation, because it's not my merits. My merits are on par with what they want. But what else is it? And that's what happens when your mind has totally been whitewashed. When you have a total whitewashed mind, you believe that everything that you do needs to be in the realm of whiteness, needs to be stamped by whiteness. And if it's not, then you're not there yet. Because success is only found within the white world. Success can't be found amongst your own people. Success can't be found doing your own thing for your people, with your people. It has to be with the oppressors. It has to be with the ones who have the power. And that's what black people in those positions with that mindset. But this is most of us, though. Let's just be real. This is most of us. Most black people are seeking white validation. And a lot of us don't even really recognize it. Right? It's one thing to be the spook that's sat by the door, but it's another thing to want to be Clarence Thomas. See what I'm saying? So Fanon is getting at the Negro who their whole mind has been Clarence Thomasized. And they see the world through the lens of whiteness, and they want to experience the world through the lens of whiteness, and they want whiteness to wrap their arms around them and embrace them. This is what we're getting into today. All right, so as always, I'm gonna give you the chapter focus, what we're focusing on overall, even though I just said it, just restate the focus overall of the chapter and get into our key points. So those key points are: the struggle for recognition is universal. All right. The failure of recognition under racism. Sartre's influence, the look of the other, the burden of historical recognition, freedom and reciprocity denied, the twofold narcissism of the black man, violence as a route to recognition, influence of Hegel, critique of Sartre on black identity and recognition and humanism, And then we're going to get to Fanon's main argument for the chapter and then the closing thoughts for the chapter. And as always, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share this video. You can hype this video up too, so hit that hype button so more people can see it. I need more likes on these videos. I need more likes on these videos. I need y'all to hit those like buttons. Get them hypes up and get them shares up. Please, let's make sure we get this out. Trying to grow this channel and make sure our people have this information and we get it in doing what we're supposed to do as Black people, taking care of our people, right? So chapter focus, right? Fanon examines the Black struggle for recognition as a full human being in a world dominated by whiteness. He engages with Hegel's master-slave dialectic and Sartre's existential philosophy, showing how the Black experience of recognition is fundamentally distorted by racism and colonism, right? So what we think we know about ourselves and what we think we believe about ourselves ultimately is through the viewpoint still of the oppressor, still through the viewpoint of the white person, because all we know is this system. All we know is this viewpoint. All we know is this world. All we know is to see ourselves through white eyes. So when do we learn to look at ourselves through our own eyes if we don't have much access to any vehicles that can help us get to where we can actually see through our own eyes? And how many of us are real serious about making sure that we can see ourselves through our own eyes? That's the question. But that's why we read these books, though. That's why we do what we do on this channel and everything. So make sure you all support all the content on this channel. Check out the live video from Saturday. Check out the live video from Friday, the Friday breakdown, the all the book readings, all the lectures, everything that's on this channel. Make sure you check it out. Check out the shorts, check out the clips, everything. Let's run these numbers up. All right, so we're going to get back into the reading. And this is page 215, getting back into the reading, chapter 7, page 215, where it starts saying, as we can. All right. Hit that like button too. As we can see, Juan de Merida must be understood from the viewpoint of overcompensation. It is because the Negro belongs to an inferior race that he seeks to be like the superior race, right? But we have a means of shaking off the Adlerian leech. In the United States, D-Man and Eastman have applied Adler's method somewhat excessively. All the facts that I have noticed are real, but it should not be necessary to point out they have only a superficial connection with Adlerian psychology. The Martinician does not compare himself with the white man, quote, father, leader, God. He compares himself with the fellow against the pattern of the white man. The Adlerian comparison would be schematized in this fashion, ego greater than the other. But the Antillian comparison, in contrast, will look like this: white over ego different from the other. The Adlerian comparison embraces two terms. It is polarized by the ego. The Antillian comparison is surmounted by a third term. Its governing faction is not personal, but social, right? Because our view is structured by the society, while their view is more of an individual structure, right? The Martinician is a man crucified. The environment that has shaped him, but that he has not shaped. That's an important factor. Let me read that again. The environment that has shaped him, but that he has not shaped. And think about our environments here that we live in, that we grew up in, that we ride by every day, has horribly drawn and quartered him. And he fills this cultural environment with his blood and his essence. Now the blood of the Negroes is a manure prized by experts. If I were an Adlerian, then, having established the facts that my friend had fulfilled in a dream, he wishes to become white, that is, to be a man. I would show him that his neurosis, his psychic instability, the rapture of his ego arose out of this governing faction. of this governing fiction. And I would say to him, M. Manioni has very ably described this phenomenon in the Malagasy. Look here, I think you simply have to resign yourself to remaining in the place that has been assigned to you. Certainly not. I would not say that at all. I would tell him the environment, society are responsible for your delusion. Once that has been said, the rest will follow of itself, and that is what we know: the end of the world. I wonder sometimes whether school inspectors and government functionaries are aware of the role they play in the colonies. For 20 years, they poured every effort into programs that would make the Negro a white man. In the end, they dropped him and told him, "You have an indisputable complex of dependence on the white man." All right. And that was the first part. And that was for Adler, A for Adler. That was the first Adler part, because remember, he's analyzing both Adler and the psychological writings and the ideologies of Adler and Hegel. So that was Adler's part, right? And so let's get to one of these first key points. The struggle for recognition is universal. Fanon begins with Hegel's master-slave dialectic, Hegel's master-slave dialectic. Human beings achieve self-consciousness and freedom through recognition by another self-conscious being, right? So going through that, Fanon begins with Hegel's master-slave dialectic. Human beings achieve self-consciousness and freedom through recognition by other self-conscious beings. Wrap your mind around that, right? To be recognized by the others, because freedom, sovereignty, power, all those things have to be recognized and respected by others. And if they're not recognized and respected by others, you will be challenged, right? In theory, recognition is reciprocal, right? Both master and slave eventually come to see each other as human beings. But we know that's not true. We know that's not true because the slave sees the master as a human being, but the master sees the slave as a tool, as an object, as an animal, right? For Fanon, this framework doesn't work under colonialism because the black person's humanity is denied from the start. What I just said, right? So, because it's like the idea of self-consciousness through another human being and recognizing it through another human being, right? But even going with that, like I said earlier, like my freedom, my autonomy, my sovereignty, my humanity being recognized by another human being. But what if that human being chooses not to recognize that? Then what? So is there a point to where my humanity can be recognized from within, or is my humanity always have to be recognized from without or through the lens of another? Because if my humanity always has to be recognized through the lens of another, if those others are my oppressors, then I would never become a human. And that's what Fanon is getting at. There was no humanity for me to start with. So where is this viewpoint of humanity going to come, especially in the master-slave relationship? Why does the master have to or even need to see the slave as a human? Did they think about that? I don't know. I don't think they've thought about that. So B, the Negro and Hegel. Self-consciousness exists in itself and for itself, and by the fact that it exists for another self-consciousness. That is to say, it is only by being acknowledged or recognized. And that's what we're talking about now from Hegel. And that's from the phenomenology of mind. That's Hegel's work, the phenomenology of mind. Man is human only to the extent to which he tries to impose his existence on another man in order to be recognized by him. As long as he has not been effectively recognized by the other will remain the theme of his actions. It is on that other being, on recognition by that other being, that his own human worth and reality depend. It is the other being in whom the meaning of his life is considered. There is not an open conflict between white and black. On the day, the white master without conflict recognized the Negro slave, but the former slave wants to make himself recognized. At the foundation of Hegelian dialectic, of the Hegelian dialectic, there is an absolute reciprocity which must be emphasized. It is in the degree to which I go beyond my own immediate being that I apprehend the existence of the other as a natural and more than natural reality. If I close the circuit, if I prevent the accomplishments of movement in the two directions, I keep the other within himself. Ultimately, I deprive him even of this being for self. The only means of breaking this vicious circle that throws me back on myself is to restore to the other through mediation and recognition his human reality, which is different from the natural reality. The other has to perform the same operation. Action from one side only would be useless because what is to happen can only be brought about by means of both. They recognize themselves as mutually recognizing each other. In its immediacy, consciousness of self is simple being for self. In order to win the certainty of oneself, in the incorporation of the concept of recognition is essential. Similarly, the other is waiting for recognition by us in order to burgeon into the universal consciousness of self. Each consciousness of self is in quest of absoluteness. It wants to be recognized as a primal value without reference, right? Right? Without reference to life as a transformation of subjective certainty into objective truth. Let me read that again so it makes sense, so it can blend together. All right. It says, each consciousness of self is in quest of absoluteness. It wants to be recognized as a primal value without reference to life as a transformation of subjective certainty into objective truth. When it encounters resistance from the other, self-consciousness undergoes the experience of desire, the first milestone on the road that leads to the dignity of the spirit. Self-consciousness accepts the risk of its life, and consequently, it threatens the other and its physical being. It is solely by risking life that freedom is obtained. Only thus it is tried and proved that the essential nature of self-consciousness is not bare existence. It is not the merely immediate from which it is at first makes its appearance. It is not its mere absorption in the expanse of life. Thus, human reality in itself for itself can be achieved only through conflict and through the risk that conflict implies. This risk means that I go beyond life toward a supreme good that is the transformation of subjective certainty of my own worth into a universally valid objective truth. You gotta explore, you gotta take chances, you gotta put yourself out there. Humanity and life and nature is not as nice as we like it to be, as we have been taught it to be. So in order for this stuff to expand, something had to be challenged, put it like that. As soon as but that's exactly what it is. Forget putting it like that. That's exactly what it is. Some kind of challenge, some kind of risk has to be taken in order for consciousness and the humanity to expand. That's how humans got to where we are today, right? Even Africans. As soon as I desire, I'm asking to be considered. I am not merely here and now, sealed into thingness. I am for someone else and for something else. I demand that notice be taken of my negating activity insofar as I pursue something other than life, insofar as I do battle for the creation of a human world, that is, of a world of reciprocal recognitions. He who is reluctant to recognize me opposes me. In a savage struggle, I am willing to accept convulsions of death, invincible disillusion, but also the possibility of the impossible, right? The other, however, can recognize me without struggle. The individual who has not staked his life may no doubt be recognized as a person, but he has not attained the truth of his recognition as an independent self-consciousness. So let's go to our notes, right? So this is the second key point: the failure of recognition under racism. The black man seeks recognition from white society, but finds only objectification because they were never set up to recognize us as human beings, only tools to be used. And we have to understand that. We were brought here to be tools to be used. And white supremacists will never see us as anything other than tools to be used or waste to be discarded. Instead of being acknowledged as human, he is reduced to his skin color and the stereotypes attached to it, the white gaze. Unlike Hegel's dialectic, the Hegelian dialectic come from Hegel. It clicked. Unlike Hegel's dialectic, where the slave eventually asserts humanity through labor, the black man under colonialism is trapped in a cycle where recognition is constantly refused, right? And that's the Hegelian dialectic. And if you don't know the Hegelian dialectic, it is I create the problem and sell you the solution. So the problem is the lack of recognition, right? And the solution is that you have to find your recognition through the white gaze, through this white system, as a white person in this white system, even though that is the problem. Hegelian dialectic, I create the problem and sell you the solution. All right, so let's get back. Where did I stop? Out of slavery, the Negro burst into the list where his master stood. Like those servants who are allowed once every year to dance in the drawing room. In the drawing room, the Negro is looking for a prop. The Negro has not become a master. Where there are no longer slaves, there are no longer masters. The Negro is a slave who has been allowed to assume the attitude of a master. The white man is a master who has allowed his slaves to eat at his table. Remember that. We've been allowed to eat at the table. One day, a good white master who had influence said to his friends, "Let's be nice to the N-words." The other master argued, for after all, it was not an easy thing, but then they decided to promote the mechanical men, the supreme rank of them. Slavery shall no longer exist on French soil. The upheaval reached the Negroes from without. The black man was acted upon, values that had not been created by his actions, values that had not been born of the symbolic tide of his blood, danced in a hued whirl round him. The upheaval did not make a difference in the Negro. It went from one way of life to another, but not from one life to another. Just as when one tells as much improved patient that in a few days he will be discharged from the hospital, he thereupon suffers a relapse. So the announcement of the liberation of the black slaves produced psychosis and sudden deaths because they didn't want to leave the care of the masters. No, master, don't leave me. No. I need you, master. It is not an announcement that one hears twice in the lifetime. The black man contented himself with thanking the white man, and the most forceful proof of that fact is the impressive number of statues erected all over France and the colonies that show white France stroking the kinky hair of this nice Negro whose chains had just been broken. Say thank you to the nice man, the mother tells her little boy. But we know that often the little boy is dying to scream some other more resounding expressions. Forget y'all. The white man, in the capacity of the master, said to the Negro, "From now on, you are free." But the Negro knows nothing of the cost of freedom, for he has not fought for it. From time to time, he has fought for the liberty and justice, but these were always white liberty and white justice, that is, values secreted by the master. The former slave who can find it in his memory, no trace of the struggle for liberty or of that anguish of liberty, of which I'm gonna mess this name up. Kierkegaard speaks, sits undermoved before the young white man singing and dancing on a tightrope of existence. When it does not happen that the Negro looks fiercely at the white man tells him, "Brother," first of all, I call him brother. "Brother, there's no difference between us." And yet the Negro knows that there is a difference. He wants it. He wants the white man to turn on him and shout, "Damn N-word." Then he would have that quiet, that unique chance to show him. But most often there's nothing but indifference or paternalistic curiosity. The former slave needs a challenge to his humanity. He wants a conflict, a riot, but it is too late. The French Negro is doomed to bite himself and just to bite. I say the French Negro for the American Negro is cast in a different play. In the United States, the Negro battles and is battled. There are laws that little by little are invalidated under the Constitution. There are other laws that forbid certain forms of discrimination, and we can be sure that nothing is going to be given free. There is war, there are defeats, truces, victories. The 12 million black voices howled against the curtain of the sky, torn from end to end, marked with the gashes of teeth biting into the belly of interdiction. The curtain fell like a burst. The curtain fell like a burst balloon. On the field of battle is four corners marked by the scores of Negroes hanged by their testicles. A monument is slowly being built that promises to be majestic. At the top of the monument, I can already see a white man and a black man hand in hand. For the French Negro, the situation is unbearable. Unable to ever be sure whether the white man considers him consciousness in itself for itself, he must forever absorb himself in uncovering resistance, opposition, and challenge. This is what emerges from some of the passages of the book that Monure has devoted to Africa. The young Negroes whom he knew were sought to maintain their alterity of rapture, of conflict, of battle. The self takes its place by opposing itself. Fitch said, yes and no. I said in my introduction, that man is a yes. I will never stop reiterating it. Yes to life, yes to love, yes to generosity. But man is also a no. No to scorn of man, no to degradation of man, no to exploitation of man, no to the butchery of what is most human in man, freedom. Man's behavior is not only recreational, but there is always resentment and a reaction. Netsky had already pointed out in The Will to Power. To educate man to the actional preserving in all his relations is respect to his basic values that constitute the human world is the prime task of him who, having taken thought, prepares to act. And that is the end of the chapter. That is the end of the chapter. So let me get to Fanon's the key points in this, right? Satire's influence, the look of the other, right? Fanon draws from Jean-Paul Sartre's idea of the gaze, right? The white gaze. How one sense of self is shaped by how others see them, right? Black people look at ourselves through the lens of the white supremacists. We are nothing unless we are only that what the white supremacists say we are. Anything else, that's not us. We can't be what we say we are because we have to be what they say we are. For the black person, the white gaze is dominating and alienating. I am fixed by the eyes of the other. I love it, but it hurts me. But I love it, but it hurts me. But I love it, but it hurts me. But I love it, but it hurts me. Black existence is defined externally. The black man is not I am, but I am seen as black. And that is the problem. Our existence needs to be internal. It needs to be I am. It needs to not be what they say we are. Our whole existence in this country has been created and shaped by our oppressors. What we gonna do about that? The burden of historical recognition. Fanon points out that the black person carries not just individual recognition, but the weight of history, slavery, colonialism, and racial stereotypes, and we don't know how to exist without it. So therefore, we will always have the trauma, the scars, the epigenetic pain that we're passing down from generation to generation that will distort how we see ourselves and how we interact with each other. White people often see not the person, but the collective Negro. Thus, black recognition is overdetermined by history, right? So that's why we're always talking about how we represent ourselves and each other. And what one black person does affects what another black person does, even on the other side of the world, because we are seen as a whole. Those blacks act like that. So one white person can do something and they can see the individual because they see themselves in individual spaces, but they see us as that black represents all the blacks. The black man lives as both himself and as a representation of the entire race. What I just said. Freedom and reciprocity denied. True recognition requires reciprocity, seeing and being seen as equals. In the colonial races where reciprocity is impossible because white supremacy is structured to deny equality. This leads to an existential crisis. The Black person desires recognition, but encounters only rejection and distortion. I don't even need to explain that. The twofold narcissism of the Black man, right? Fanon introduces the idea of narcissism shaped by race. The Black man desires recognition from the white man to be accepted into whiteness. He also desires recognition from other Black people who themselves may be trapped in internalized racism. The dual dependency leads to deep psychological conflict and alienation. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. Everybody's against me. I'm out here by myself. I'm doing it by myself. Violence as a route to recognition. Influence of Hegel. Hegel suggested that the struggle for recognition can involve violence. One risks their lives to assert humanity. And we did read that. Fanon foreshadows his later works, The Wretched of the Earth, arguing that under colonialism, violence becomes a means for the colonized to demand recognition. Recognition in this sense cannot be begged for. It must sometimes be forced through struggle. You can't take nothing. Well, you can't beg for anything in this world. You're either going to take it or you ain't. You're either going to be recognized or you ain't. And they're going to recognize you because they respect you. The critique of satire on Black identity. Fanon critiques satire's writings on Black consciousness, particularly satire's idea of the Negritude, right? Black cultural identity is only a temporary stage on the path to a classless human society. Yeah, he can go to hell for that because every group of people has their own identity. Fanon is disappointed. Satire denies the independent value of Black identity, seeing it as just a step toward universal liberation, which is bull because universal liberation can't happen if I can't be recognized through my own humanity. Fanon insists that Black recognition cannot be reduced or bypassed. It must be achieved on its own terms. We have to empower and uplift ourselves. Recognition and humanism. Despite his critiques, Fanon remains committed to the possibility of a new humanism beyond racism. He envisions a world where Black and white recognition can be mutual, but this requires dismantling colonialism and racial hierarchies, replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. Fanon concludes that Black men must demand recognition not as Black within white terms, but as a human being equal in dignity and freedom. And if I can't be seen as a real human being, an equal human being, a powerful human being, then we got a problem. And I got to take mine. So Fanon's main argument, and of course, just reiteration of it, but recognition is central to human identity. But under colonialism and racism, the Black man is denied true recognition. The white gaze fixes him as an object, not a subject, leaving him alienated. Fanon argues that liberation requires breaking this cycle, forcing recognition if necessary, and building a new humanism where Black identity is affirmed as fully human, not subordinate. Right. Black identity is not being shaped through the lens of white supremacy or oppression through white supremacy, but through Black people being free, autonomous humans, sovereign humans. So my closing thought for the video is, in chapter 7, Fanon shows philosophical depth. He blends psychology, existentialism, and political thought to explain why the Black man's struggle for recognition is the struggle for humanity itself. This chapter anticipates his revolutionary call in The Wretched of the Earth, that freedom and recognition are not given, they are seized. And we did read Wretched of the Earth, so go back and look at those videos. So yeah, man, so this is chapter 7. And of course, we got one more chapter left, and that will be chapter 8 by way of conclusion. And that starts on page 223. So make sure you check that out. Be ready for it for next week. Be ready for it for next Monday because we're getting into it. And chapter 8 is the last chapter of the book. And we have, hey man, we got through this book pretty quick. Good, real good book, real good book. Everybody need to read it. Everybody need to read this book, real good book. Remember, the link to get this book is in the description. Hey, recognition, power, freedom, humanity, all those things have to be taken. You can't be soft out here in this world. Can't be soft. We got to get our stuff together. We got to start acting like humans, start acting civilized, stop acting like N-words. Less N-words, more black people. Let's do it. I'm Joseph Ward. Make sure y'all hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. Hit that hype button too, because you can hit that hype button as well. See the website scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Check it out and continue to support what we got going on. And man, make sure you check the next video coming up. And I love y'all. Peace out. Have a great Monday.